This is The Recap, a weekly reflection on the sermons of Fellowship Baptist Church in Mainville, Ohio, seeking to help you make Jesus essential in every aspect of your life. I'm your host, Ryan Land, and I'm here with the preacher of this week's sermon, Brent Wilson. Brent, welcome back to a new season.
Season
7.
We've
done over 100 episodes of The Recap.
It's not 6?
No.
So 7?
It's 7.
6, 7.
Oh my gosh. And that's it, folks. The show's canceled.
See ya.
6-7 reference. I think we're done. I think it's over.
That was last year.
I think we've moved on.
That was 2025.
I asked some teenagers on Sunday. I was like, "Are we done with 6-7?" And they said they were there. Someone said, "I don't know if they're serious or not." That the new thing is 7-8.
No, that can't be serious.
So, and you go down instead of up.
Oh my gosh.
7-8. So they had to be messing with me. So tell me. Here's my icebreaker question.
Okay.
I want three things about your holiday break.
Oh, okay. What kind of things?
I don't know, anything. Did you get anything cool? Did anything happen? Did you do anything fun?
Oh man. Well,
Did you build anything? Did you make anything?
Thank goodness no. Let's see. One of the things my wife got me was a portable shampooer because I like to clean carpet.
Mm-hmm. So, not for your hair.
Not for your hair.
Yeah.
For your upholstery.
Yeah.
Or
is it a little grain
stairs.
machine?
Little grain machine.
We have one.
Yeah. Got some pretty
dude on the couch. That's the money.
Oh yeah.
Do the little grain machine.
Well, I needed it because the other day Eli got a giant Costco-sized bag of brown sugar out of the pantry
and brought it to the couch
and spilled the whole thing.
Oh,
it was rough.
That is rough.
That's rough, buddy.
That's
as my daughter would say. Yeah, so that was rough. So that was a fun little practical gift. It's funny when you get old, you get each other practical gifts because I got my wife a bread machine so she can cook.
That thing's crazy though,
and
like that's it's like the Jetsons or something.
You just put all the ingredients in and bread comes out. The
next morning, there's just there's a loaf of bread.
Yeah,
crazy.
I got some pretty cool D&D dice from you.
Yeah,
so excited about that.
Some metal dice.
Gosh, I've so moved on in my head from the holidays. I'm trying to remember what else went on.
Did you do anything on New Year's?
We had a few people over. We had played some games. Played one of my favorite board games, Chronology.
Nice. Did you win?
Actually, Kate won. It was 9-9, and she beat me right at the end.
Because I wasn't there to win.
Yeah.
Dude, so Nathan told me there's a game that's like Chronology, but you get a song, and you have to put the songs in order.
Of when they were written?
When they came out.
Wow.
Which is
awesome. The hard part about that is sometimes you think it came out. Yeah. When, and Nathan always knows, well, you know it probably by this person, but originally so-and-so wrote it.
Like Elvis. Mm-hmm. Almost every single one of his hits is a cover.
Really?
Yeah. So.
Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog is a cover?
Cover.
No way.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
So.
Would have never known.
I got a baby.
Yeah.
I had a baby.
For Christmas.
We got her. We had our baby.
Honey, the baby's here. And it looks like your boss.
Oh my gosh. I wasn't going to continue the quote. So me and Darcy had little Merritt, Joy, and so we had like a very, I kept telling people I felt like a caveman. I just like didn't leave my house because the only time I left my house was to go to your house. Mm-hmm. And
the doctor. You went to the doctor a few times.
Oh gosh. For a couple of weeks, went to the doctor a lot. I'm trying to think of what else. What else is there? When you have a baby, it's like that kind of takes over.
You sleep.
Kind of takes over your life.
Clean up poop.
I got a lot of books for Christmas.
Yeah.
Yep. And I got a Kindle. So that's like it's like a lot of books in one thing. So and I did nothing on New Year's. I was probably up at.
Did you stay up till the ball dropped?
I think we watched like the one in like a different country.
So you saw it early?
So it dropped early.
Okay.
Yeah. And we didn't watch it.
My favorite part about the ball drop. Did you see I think it's his name Mel Kiper? Not Mel Kiper.
Mel Kiper from the draft?
Yeah, but no, it's a different sports guy.
Anderson Cooper. Oh.
No, different sports guy who's like watching the ball drop, and then it shows like the two guys kissing, and he goes, "What do we do? It's love is in the air." Have you seen that clip?
No.
Of the show? It's like he almost reacts poorly to it, and then he's like, "Oh, I mean, this is great, actually."
I have no idea what that is.
I'll show it. It's pretty funny.
That is so funny. Yeah, I also saw a video of like a parent who like they just showed a YouTube video of the ball dropping last year at like 7 p.m. to their kids, and they were like, "It's the new year," and they just like gaslit their kids into believing that it was the new year, and then they put them to bed.
Okay, so the craziest thing about New Year's though, about the ball drop, you know the like the new mentalist guy that like all the NFL teams are bringing in,
yeah,
and he's like
he
stuff?
predicted what year it was going to be.
No, he was doing this thing with Anderson Cooper and whoever the other guy was there, and he did a couple of things with them that were crazy, but then. I can't even remember what he does. He has like come up with random numbers, and then he's like multiplying them. Gets his calculator out. Has Anderson get his calculator, multiplies it, and the answer to the random numbers they came up with, whatever,
was 2026.
No, was the exact time and date. It was crazy.
That dude's wild.
Crazy.
Like he's got to be magic. He's like a Hogwarts dropout, just doing street magic, like. Because anytime they show him with an NFL team, it's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
So, well, let us begin a new discussion on the book of Hebrews. I was going to make a joke about this season being sponsored by cheesy Christian coffee companies, Hebrews, Holy Grounds, things like that. But the moment had passed. So we're starting a new series, called Greater, like the ice cream.
Oh, that's what it's going to be sponsored by.
Sponsored by Greater Bluebell. We're getting Bluebell in Cincinnati. Yeah, this year.
Like in the grocery store?
Yep.
How'd you know about this?
I saw it on Facebook, so it's got to be true. It's like a Bluebell ad.
Okay. I love Bluebell.
It was like we're crossing the Ohio or something.
That's not going to help my weight loss program.
That's why I'm not in it. So I can eat some Bluebell. But so Greater, studying Hebrews. So before we talk about, I want to talk briefly about week 1 because we didn't get to do a podcast week 1, and then talk about week 2. But just why pick Hebrews? What do you hope people? What's your desire for people to get out of Hebrews to encourage them towards?
Yeah,
all those things.
Well, so always in the new year, I think about 2 things. One, like as we think about New Year and resolutions and refocusing and committing and all those kinds of things. So what's helpful in that light? And then what is helpful to gear us up to Easter? So that kind of those 2 things. And so Hebrews can be a little overly technical. It gets kind of down in some weeds and it's quoting the Old Testament a lot. And it's like, but the way we're doing it, looking at these greater signs, these shadows pointing to Jesus, I think it's going to help us start the new year off by just, hey, we're going to literally look at Jesus, focus on Jesus, and as we help us to lead up to Easter of just kind of meditating on and thinking about all the different ways Jesus has fulfilled and satisfied the longings and the anticipation of the Old Testament and the longings of our hearts. And so just having a deeper look at Jesus specifically, we're talking about Jesus every week, but just kind of diving a little deeper into the things that he's doing or did to lead us to Easter and start the new year.
Great. So let's briefly touch on week 1. We talked about Jesus as the greater word, and I pulled a couple of your points that I thought
we're doing a 2-for-1 today?
A 2-for-1 special.
Oh man! All right.
So I think some things that were really helpful practically, and then also some things I'd like you to unpack a little bit more, because I think on their face you could kind of be like, wait, what does he mean when he says that? So, but first I want to you have this really practical point. For many people, the Bible is a good word, but not the final word. Why is that? Like, do you talk about the new year? Like, why is that a helpful challenge for people going into the new year? Like understanding the Bible, like being convicted of the fact that you may treat the Bible as just something good, but not final.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of times we don't think about what does get the final say in my life. So we're not actively thinking about that, and so therefore, there's always a competition going on for what has the final say in my life, and whether it's friends or influencers or people on the news, whoever, getting the final word, and so. But we all like the Bible for the most part, right? Most people in America think the Bible is a good thing. Even people who don't believe in Jesus think the Bible is a good thing for the most part. Like it has some good morals and whatnot. And so, but it's not enough. So it's the wrong response to the claim of the Bible to look at it as this good thing, this moral teaching, this guide for life, this practical wisdom. It's not enough to think, oh yeah, those are some good things, because it misses the actual claim of the Bible. And so we actually need to think about, oh, this actually is claiming to be the final authority. Am I treating it like the final authority? Does it have that sort of sway in my life? Do I know it enough that it has that sway? All those kinds of things. So.
Yeah. I think one of the ways I really see that like manifesting in people's lives and even in my own life is like making assumptions about the Bible. But not really ever knowing what it actually has to say. It's like we're like things can sound Christian-y or Bible-y, and you're like, yeah, it's like the Bible says that, and it's like no, it actually doesn't, or it says more than that, or
that reminds me of I say this a lot. This is from Matt Chandler. It says if we don't know what the Bible says, we become slaves to what sounds right, or what sounds good, and so it's like, oh, God is a God of love, therefore blank.
It's like, it's funny. That's exactly the example I was thinking about. I was just in a book I was reading talking about what does it mean that God is love, and so that's so funny. But like what you were saying, I think is when you do that, what you're then doing is letting all those other things that are bouncing around in your head be the final authority and not the Bible. When because what's informing those assumptions is all that other stuff bouncing around. And so I think, it's crazy like how much this has happened with like this is affecting like geopolitics, right? Like these assumptions about the Bible.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like Ted Cruz is like on
Tucker Carlson
being like, well, it says in the Bible. That's my Ted Cruz impression. Well, it says in the Bible that those who bless Israel will be blessed. And that's not what it says. It says those who bless Abraham will be blessed. And so it's like, yeah, it's like Israel's good. They're characters in the Bible. And so, yeah, like that, we should help them, or whatever. And so, like those assumptions, it's like, but if you go read, there's more nuance than that. I'm not trying to make some like political statement about Israel or whatever. I'm saying there's assumptions that we make that lead to like very practical changes, even on these like macro levels.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to the series I did a while back about, did God really say?
Yeah.
Right. And we think God said, oh, God helps those who help themselves, or God will never give you more than you can handle. It's like, oh, well, the Bible says that. It's like, no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
But culturally, we've been conditioned to think that it does.
It's just a lot of times I think what we think the Bible says drives our decision making and not what it actually says, And so when it comes to, there's the practical sense of like being in the Word, it's like just know what it actually says.
That reminds me of our friend Brady's story about when he was growing up.
Oh, my God.
When he was growing up. And there's a big fight in their church about whether or not women can wear pants. And this woman gets up and says, well, I just know that we need to stand on the Bible, and the Bible says a woman ought not to wear pants. And Brady gets up and
he's like 14 or something.
Yeah, he's like, well, where does it say that? And she says, I don't know, but I know it's in there somewhere.
Yes. That's how I think that's like our attitude so much of the time is like, well, I don't know where it says it, but I'm sure it says something like that.
Yeah.
And that changes, how we treat people, how we think about God. And so recognizing it as, you talked about the final authority, right? It's like we don't think past the Bible, right? Like we don't need it to be updated for, it's like, yeah, well, I know it says that, but it's like that's for like people 2,000 years ago or whatever. It's like, no, these are the guardrails, right? These are the ways we've been instructed or taught to think about God, to think about the world, to think about ourselves. So you talked about this earlier, and this is kind of all over the book of Hebrews, talking about these Old Testament references. And so I wanted to ask you about this and to unpack this a little bit. So you said in the Old Testament, God spoke in several ways, but all of them were incomplete. And I think some people maybe heard that on Sunday and they were like, wait a minute, what's he mean? Like it wasn't good, like it wasn't enough, like it wasn't, whatever. And so unpack that a little bit. Specifically, I thought this was so fascinating. The Greek word that was in our Bibles, it's in many
ways.
But you.
So a more accurate translation would say in many times and in many pieces.
Yeah.
And so the idea is that in the Old Testament, God spoke, and he spoke clearly and accurately and authoritatively. He just only gave us a few pieces of the puzzle. He didn't give us the whole picture yet. And so in the New Testament,
like we don't have the box.
Yeah. Like, we don't know what this is going to turn out to be. Yeah, that's a great example. It's almost like you've been given 100 pieces of 1,000-piece puzzle, but you don't know what it's a puzzle of. And you've started to put it together, and you're like, okay, I can kind of see the outline and kind of maybe what this is going to look like, but you don't really know. And when Jesus shows up, he completes the puzzle. It's like, oh, this is what all these things are pointing to. And I don't know if this was helpful for people or not, but in my mind, it kind of clicked something when I thought about this. It's like we talk about those things in the Old Testament being shadows. And so this idea that you really have a flashlight at the future shining across Jesus to the Old Testament. So everything in the Old Testament is a shadow of these true things that are the fulfillment. We're seeing the shadow cast from the future.
It made me think of The Great Divorce, and how like when you're in heaven, this is like it's more real. Like we think about reality as like this objective, like, or like binary, right? It's like something's real or it's not real. And Lewis is like supposing like, what if you could be more real?
Yeah.
And it's like they're real, like the truths of the Old Testament are real, but their fulfillment in Jesus somehow is like more real, more substantial, more weighty, that will eventually lead to like the ultimate reality of.
So it's not to say that it's not, some people would say, oh, we're going to not really listen to the Old Testament, or we're going to unhitch ourselves from the Old Testament, those sorts of things. Shout out Andy Stanley. We're not saying that. We're saying that the Old Testament is authoritative and true and good and inspired and all those things. It's just incomplete without the New Testament.
Yeah, I think that's super helpful, and I did think, I think it was this week you talked about this, about like people like atheists and people who are anti-Christian sort of saying Christians kind of pick and choose in the Bible like what to believe, and was that
that was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and so it made me think of the scene in The West Wing that like people always are like, this is such a great scene because President Bartlett like dunks on this like homophobic woman, and by being like, are you wearing clothes with two different with two different spun in two different threads or whatever, and I'm actually just like pulling my hair out during that scene because I'm like, he's actually smarter than this. The person writing the character has such an incomplete understanding that the character like then suffers because he's making this
silly
illogical argument about like, oh, you
reads the Bible flat.
Not seeing the shadows, why they're there, what's causing the shadows of the law and of Moses, like we're gonna talk about. So you also talked about, and we kind of referenced this, like Jesus being the final word and Jesus like completing the story. And so why connect these dots for me and for the listeners? What is the connection between Jesus and like the Word, right? And so like we've been talking about the Bible, but now we're saying Jesus is the final word. What's the connective tissue for us when we talk about Jesus being the final authority and we talk about the Bible being the final authority?
Yeah. So Jesus shows up, and he himself, the person, is that kind of final revelation, right? But John describes him as the Logos. And the word Logos, is the word where in the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God, and the word there is Logos, which doesn't mean word from a perspective of like a word.
Yeah, it's not like a written word or a spoken word.
It's this Greek philosophical term that it's really like the idea of logic or the idea of ology. And so you have like zoology, right? It's the study of all things concerning animals, right? Biology, all things concerning life. And so Jesus is the ology. That is that thing that makes
theology.
Sense. Yeah. But the ology, that which makes sense of all things. And so he is the one that is bringing logic and understanding to the world. And so so you have him as this word, this bringing understanding. And so as he shows up on the earth, and then there's this document inspired by him, by the Spirit, about his life, then we understand, okay, as we talked about the Holy Spirit inspiring the Bible, but we also talk about him as the Word of Christ. He has inspired the Word of Christ. And so now we see, when I read Genesis 1, in light of understanding the New Testament and Jesus being the revelation of God and him being the Word, and Genesis 1 says that God spoke the world into existence, and the New Testament tells me that God created the world through the agency of the Son. Now, and he's speaking it. Now all of a sudden I go, oh, Jesus is on a bigger scale and on a different understanding. He's the Word of God. He is the communication of God. Mm-hmm. And so now, actually, it's not just the New Testament, it's the Old Testament too. It's all the Word of Christ. And so Jesus is the final revelation, but then documented through all of the scriptures. So does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. And I think, in a very like Trinitarian sense, right? Like in the same way creation, like physical creation is like a Trinitarian act, mm-hmm. right? So is the Bible, right? And so, because the Holy Spirit inspired the Bible, mm-hmm. the words like are the very words of God. That's mm-hmm. how we can put them mm-hmm. synonymously with who Jesus is, what he spoke. It's why I get frustrated with red letter Bibles, mm-hmm. and because I'm like, even subconsciously, it's teaching us there are some words in the Bible that are more important than others.
Because these are Jesus's words.
yeah.
It's like people realize he didn't write this down.
Yeah, it's yeah, for sure. So it's like really could all be read.
Yeah.
Right, in terms of authority and I don't know what else, but that they're all inspired in the exact same way.
I think another way to say it too that I just thought about is Jesus the person is this final God's revealing his plan and everything mm-hmm. to the world, and the whole Bible is testifying to him. The Old Testament's looking forward to him, and the New Testament's looking back at him.
Yeah.
And so
yeah, because I think when you hear that, like it's like a testimony of Jesus. Mm-hmm. Immediately, I think at least my brain is like, oh, so the Gospels are more important, right? It's like because those are the ones about Jesus. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, no, actually, when like what the author of Hebrews is telling us is all of that stuff beforehand was all about Jesus. And then when you go and like. Well, now obviously what we're reading in Hebrews, which comes after the Gospels, is pointing us back to Jesus. So
it's interesting you bring this up, and maybe we're going to bring this up. I'll jump the gun here. It's so fascinating to me, and I guess I talked about this in the sermon a little bit, but that there's this kind of movement. I'm curious if you see this or not, of wanting Jesus. Like we like Jesus, we want Jesus, we want to talk about Jesus, mm-hmm. but we don't really like the Bible, mm-hmm. right? It's like we don't really like. Andy Stanley will do this sometimes. He'll be like, we don't really necessarily like Paul or like mm-hmm. the Bible or we don't really like that sometimes. So don't get hung up on the Bible. Get hung up on Jesus. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, how do you know anything about Jesus?
Yeah.
The only way, like the Bible, is how we know it.
Yeah. It's like he existed and got crucified by like any other document outside of the Bible. That's all you know about him.
Yeah.
But like that's relevant to when he was actually. Mm-hmm. On earth, but outside of the Bible, like that's all you can know. And it's not like there's probably thousands of people we know were born and crucified because of historic record.
Yeah.
So why Jesus? And so I think it's actually what I think people what their desire is like this sort of like evangelistic move mm-hmm. to be like, look, like, hey, we'll deal with all that other stuff, like
all that weird Bible stuff
like,
later.
We'll deal with that later. Let's just talk about Jesus, which I get. But what I would say to someone trying to make that argument to me is that, but isn't it better to say that actually all of human history has been pointing to this guy, and we can see it from historical documents from over 2,000 years before he was born? It's like that's more compelling than just being like, hey, let's just talk about this like guru guy that was like smart and loving and kind and all that stuff, and then we'll deal with all the like weird stuff in the Old Testament and the weird commands and it's like actually better to say like, no, humanity was changed forever because of this guy, and we can see that because of the record we have in the Bible. And so it's like we love Jesus because of the Bible, not in spite of it.
Yes,
it's like not a roadblock to knowing and understanding and caring about Jesus. No, I think that's because you do see that a lot, right? And it's a little bit the red letter movement or the Jesus movement of the seven of the what was it called? The Jesus, not the Jesus movement. It was like the Jesus convention, and they were like, how do we make the Bible like just the Jesus stuff? And it's like, easiest convention ever. It's like,
Already
we did it. We did it a long time ago. So the other thing you talked about that I wanted just to give you some more time on in week 1, talking about the greater word, was this idea of, does God still speak to us today? And if so, how does that happen? Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's funny. I said I'm gonna give a simple answer and then a more nuanced answer. And
Dude, it was so funny. You talked for a while, and then you were like, and now I'm gonna give the nuanced answer. And I was like, oh wait, that was the simple one.
Well, I guess it was not necessarily in length. I guess usually you would think nuance takes longer. But someone texted me and was like, which one was the nuanced answer? The simple answer was simply no. He doesn't speak.
No, I did get that.
He's done.
Yeah.
The nuanced one. So let me say that. So the simple,
why do you say no?
Because I think what Hebrews 1 is saying is that God spoke in pieces. Now he has spoken in full.
Yeah.
And so his final full revelation has come in Christ. And so he has nothing to add.
Yeah. It's why we can reject like the Book of Mormon.
Yeah. Or modern day prophets.
Yeah.
And so I just don't think...
Just like, and God left out some weird stuff if he was adding it in with the Book of Mormon. I'm sorry, I just think about that.
Yeah.
It's like all the people before the 1800s, they were like, man, we would have loved to know all that stuff you told that dude in the 1800s.
Yeah,
that'd have been helpful.
So yeah, I think God has spoken. Now that doesn't mean. So here's the kind of the nuanced answer. That doesn't mean God doesn't lead us and guide us and lay things on our heart. We'll say that phrase, or inspire us, or like convict us to do something, or like you're in a place and you just have this burden to go share the gospel with this person across the room, and you just have this overwhelming feeling that you should go do that right now, right? And or you feel called to ministry, or you feel called to the mission field, and God is speaking that to you. Those things can certainly happen.
Yeah,
but I got this from Tim Keller, and I thought it was helpful, where he says, God can speak in those ways. You'll just never be confident in the moment.
Yeah. Well, not that you won't be. It's like you just like actually can't be.
Yeah.
You might be confident. Like you told us,
you shouldn't be. Maybe
you told the story about the guy who was like had it so impressed on him that he was going to marry this girl, and then he went up and like told her. She's like, "I'm engaged, loser. Kick rocks."
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, and so like. It doesn't mean, so God has spoken. That means don't be thinking that you're going to get an audible voice, or some prophet is, but certainly be attuned to how God may be spurring you on or whatever.
And kind of more charismatic churches, they talk about like receiving a word. It's like, hey, I'm going to speak a word over you.
Oh yeah, and I got a word from God. I've got
a word for Yeah. And so it's that always kind of makes me like, ooh.
Yeah, I got the word. His name is Jesus.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. That's the thing that I really struggle with this, is because I'm like, if you think God told you something, like you got to be so committed to that thing.
Oh yeah.
Like there's got to be nothing should hold you back from following that path or doing that thing or not doing that thing, right? If in your heart you're convinced, like, God told me to do this, God told me not to do this, like what is stopping you from doing it?
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of times, I think we want the, I don't want to say excuse, that feels too negative. We want the propelling of the truth, like God told me to do this. But then when it actually comes to like doing the thing, we're kind of like, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
It's like, but I think it might be too, it's actually maybe too hard. So
yeah,
God told me I don't have to do it anymore.
The other example I would give is, I think you see this a lot on the mission field, is some guy will get a dream. What's in the dream? Like maybe he sees Jesus, or he sees this person coming to their village or whatever, and then the next day this missionary shows up.
Yeah,
shares the gospel. I certainly think God can do that.
Oh yeah,
right. And
I think particularly in places that don't have access to the written word.
Yeah,
I think there's more. Yeah.
But the thing about that too is like I think the Bible says like in the last days your young men will dream dreams and your old men will have visions or whatever. So it's like, but those aren't words.
Yeah,
right. They're not like do this. Or this is the truth. It's impressions and feelings and ideas and pictures.
And it's not binding for others, right? Yeah. Usually when those things happen, it's
a softening for me, opening my eyes.
It's like really when someone's like, hey, God told me you need to do, like, hey, you girl, God told me you were going to marry me. That's like really problematic, I think, is like, that's when you really are like, hey, I actually have what God told me to do, and it's in this book. I don't need anyone else telling me God told them to do or not do anything. Yeah. So, okay, anything else to say about Jesus being the Word, the final word, the ultimate word?
Nope.
The word of words. I don't
know. The word of all words.
The word of all words. All right. Well, let's talk about...
He's the Wordle. He's the true and better Wordle.
The true and better Wordle. J-E... He would fit. I quit... Fun fact, I quit Wordle because they kept using words that weren't English. And it ticked me off because I'd miss them and like my streak would go to 0 and I'd be like, adieu is French. That's not even English. So, bye. All right, let's talk about Moses. I have a riddle for you. What do Hebrews 3 and the Fast and the Furious 3 have in common? What's the common denominator?
Is Fast and Furious 3 Tokyo Drift?
Yeah.
What do they have in common?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
You said it.
Tokyo Drift?
Yeah, they're both about drifting.
Is that your first dad joke?
Maybe. I texted it to Brad in the middle of your sermon. I texted Brad Weaver, and it was like Hebrews 3, Fast and Furious 3, like shaking hands, and it's like drifting. So Hebrews 3 is this warning passage about drifting and about using the Israelites and Moses kind of as a comparison. So first, let's talk about this kind of big topic that you addressed. You said a strong beginning does not guarantee a faithful finish. And so talk about that kind of in the category that we like to talk about, once saved, always saved, or the more theological descriptor is perseverance of the saints. So talk about that a little bit. Why is this hard for us? What is the author of Hebrews trying to teach us about that here?
I think a lot of times
we got to talk about who wrote Hebrews on one podcast. I didn't even think about it.
I've got a theory.
Okay.
Just from a book I read. So it's not like
Vin Diesel.
That's a hot take.
Because they both like drifting.
So
he's not even in Tokyo Drift. He's in it for like 2 seconds at the end.
What did you ask me again?
Once saved, always saved. Perseverance of the saints.
I think a lot of times when we think about once saved, always saved, we think, when you say the prayer, which is not in the Bible, but
it sounds like it is.
Yeah. When you do the thing, you know the thing when you do it.
Yeah, the thing.
When that God writes down your name in His Lamb's Book of Life, and He writes it in pen, and so it's like, all right,
Sharpie,
magic marker. It's final. You can't erase it, so you're good. No matter what you do, no matter how far you drift, no matter what sins you do, you're in. And I think that's a wrong way to think about it, particularly because we have these great examples, particularly from Jesus about the parable of the sower, where there are some that grow up, that there's some greenery, there's some growth. They look the part. They're around us. They're with us. They're around us, and they're singing, and they're participating, and they're serving, and some of them will say, "Lord, Lord, did we not cast out demons in your name? Did we not prophesy in your name?" And He says, "Depart from me, for I never knew you." And so there are some that will look like they've gotten saved, but they won't. The difference is two things. One, according to the parable, they don't produce fruit, and then two, they don't endure to the end. And so you see that enduring to the end thing a lot, not just in Hebrews, but throughout the whole scriptures. And so now, certainly some people can have a detour. Right? They're saved, and they have a season of wandering. Yeah. But they come back. Or they get saved.
Or they could appear saved, but then they actually weren't, and then they had a real conversion.
Sure. And maybe we don't know.
I think that's maybe like the biggest part of the conversation is like, just stop assuming that you know if people are saved or not. Yeah. Unless you can see their fruit, right?
Yeah. And so really it's those who endure to the end will be saved. And so people who are right now on the detour, you should, I'm not saying they're not saved, but you don't have any assurance that they are. And so maybe the best practice is to treat them as if they're not until they come back.
Yeah.
And then I used to tell youth students all the time when I was youth pastor, they'd want to get re-saved at camp, right? And I would say, look, it doesn't matter if you were saved before, this is your first time. Like, do you believe? Have you asked for forgiveness? All right. Well, then let's just like rest in that.
Yeah. Yeah. Something I didn't write this down. Something you just said, I'm just thinking of this for the first time. Is there a distinction between those who don't persevere to the end and those who Jesus is talking about when he says, like, we'll say, Lord, Lord, did we not do all this stuff in your name? Is that like two different groups of people?
Yeah.
Because it seems like those people who like that they appear to persevere to the end.
Yeah.
And then even then it's like this was.
Yeah, I think that's true. That's helpful. It seems like there are those who fall away and have stopped walking, stopped living, really given up on Jesus and proven they were never his. And then those who their whole life appeared to be Christians. And then at the pearly gates, they're going to be shocked because they're not. And that's because they were trusting in the wrong thing. They actually weren't trusting Jesus, or trusting in their own works. They were only in it for, I think about like
fame or
the televangelist sort of people who are in it for the money.
Or like Simon the magician in Acts.
Just in it for
he's
the
like,
power.
he's like, how do I get that power? I want to do that.
Yeah.
I want to be like the mentalist guy on the ball dropping.
Yeah. And so there are certainly people in it for the wrong reasons and don't have genuine faith, but they hung around the church the whole time.
Yeah.
That's the case for the Israelites.
Yeah.
I mean, like they crossed the Red Sea. They're there. They don't enter the promised land, but they stay with Israel until they die, thinking they're believing Israel. That's the hard thing about Israel when you talk about Israel, is that you have believing Israel and unbelieving Israel, and they all exist in Israel.
Yeah.
So you have the whole nation, and within the nation, there are believers and unbelievers.
Well, and it's the other thing for me, I think, in this topic is like when you are so internally focused from a spiritual perspective, like this can like eat you alive because you're like in this like, am I saved? Am I not saved? Am I producing fruit? Am I not producing fruit? And it's like if you like, that's just like navel gazing, right? It's like that's just like looking like trying to I'm just worried about myself. It's like when you instead, like we're gonna like the author of Hebrews talks about the end of this, when you consider Jesus, when you look outside of yourself, you actually can just rest because you understand, oh, it's actually none of my work that does it, it's his.
Yeah.
And so that is what gives us rest. And so it's like this, trying to ask yourself if you're saved or not is always going to lead to just like spiraling and doubting. What you have to do is what Jesus did sufficient?
Keller, I think, has a helpful thing on this. He says, for some people think they've got it really together, and they look at themselves and they think, I need to be more humble. And some people like are really struggling and they're sinning and they're really just struggling in life, and they go, man, for God to be happy with me, I'm going to have to really be better. And he says, then the answer for both of them isn't to look less at yourself or more at yourself. It's to stop looking at yourself and look at Jesus.
Yep.
So keep your eyes on the finish line, on Jesus, and not on you.
Yeah, and I think like this is such good motivation for us, is to think like, if we are doubting, am I really saved? Am I really, it's like, well, am I persevering? Like, am I continuing to follow Jesus today and tomorrow and the next day and the next day? There's this great song by Andy Gullahorn where he talks about how he was at summer camp and they asked him which day he was saved. And he hilariously says, I told him I was Catholic, but that wasn't good enough. And so this is just a funny lyric. But then he says, but if I were older, I know just what I'd say. I'd say yesterday, this morning, and tomorrow. Just that's like, it's always happening, right? It's like I'm always being saved.
Well, yeah, and that's the hard thing when we think about that word that we've sort of co-opted a little bit. It's like, well, I was saved, I'm being saved, I will be saved.
Yeah, yeah.
So
it's like if you're always like thinking like, hey, it's gonna happen tomorrow, then it will. It's like you'll persevere, right? And just until there's not a tomorrow for you, So you also talked about, so this idea of drifting, right? Yeah. Drifting is this real danger, and this quote I think is so good, and I wrote it down, I bolded it in my notes, and I think this is true of pretty much every Christian in the world. The issue is that faithfulness starts to feel ordinary and ordinary obedience stops feeling valuable. Like, that's so helpful, but unpack that, simplify it a little bit for us. Why is that the thing that causes this idea? Why is that like the pattern of our drifting?
Well, I think for Christians today, I've seen this in myself, particularly when I was a little bit younger, and I've just seen in every church and everywhere I've been that we're a society that wants the new, the bigger, the faster, the shinier, the new iPhone, everything. And so when we go to church, particularly as all this technology has invaded the church, and 100 years ago, church was an organ or a piano, some hymn books, and we didn't even have air conditioning, right? And so it's like, but now it's like, oh, all these churches are competing for all these people, and it's like, how do we get better? How do we do more? How do we have a bigger show? How do we have more feels? When we're making it spicy, we're making it practical. Like, I think 10 years ago, the real big thing was like, oh, it's all practical. How do we be practical? Practical. 5 keys for a healthy marriage. And I think today a little bit more, it's more about like, how do we create a feeling or
a spiritual experience?
That's a good word.
I would say.
And so it's like we get a little, when we're in our church, we get a little discontent, and it's like, we've been listening to that same person sing for years. We've been listening to the same guy preach, and we've done some cool things, and we're growing, and we've got this going on and that going on. That's fun, but I visited that other church, and man, it just felt powerful.
Oh, and you don't have to visit anymore.
You just watch it all.
You can just see the sermon clip. And you're like, oh, whoa.
Yeah, and so that church
that pastor really brought it for 30 seconds.
And they had some cool props, or their cameras were better, right? And so they had some cool zoomed in shots, and just the production level was better, and all that stuff can just captivate people and think, oh, that is faithfulness. That's better. We need that, and so the normal rhythms of Bible reading and prayer and going to church and being in community and just sitting under the Word, those things are just kind of like boring. Yeah, and I want to spice it up.
Yeah, I think it's a good mental exercise to think, if my church got rid of all the stuff that I loved about it, that is superficial. If they got pews, if my church went back in time, and they're like, well, hey, we think we had it right 50 years ago.
If we scaled back,
and we're gonna put pews in, we're gonna start singing hymns, we're gonna take all the video screens down, and no drums, no electric guitar, it's like what would you do? It's like we're just gonna no Sunday school. We're all just gonna get in this room, and we're gonna sing 4 hymns. We're gonna pray for 30 minutes, and we're gonna read the Bible. We're gonna preach the word or whatever. It's like, what would you do? Would you think that's more valuable or less valuable than what you had previously done?
And without a doubt, our attendance would drop by 75%.
Probably more. Yeah. But and I'm not saying that's good or like the past is better. What I'm saying is they're equally valuable, because what's core to the community of believers is the preaching of the word, worship, prayer. But what you're saying is like we get caught up in all this superficial stuff. Yeah. And eventually that's what we're bought in on, not the thing that's actually valuable.
Yeah. And so I constantly need the newer, the bigger, the better. It's just an endless search.
Well, and that's what I think even take church out of it. I think even in our personal spiritual life, that's what it's about. Where it's like, oh, I need the next best, like Beth Moore study or whatever. Yeah. I need the next Jen Wilkins study or John MacArthur study. May he rest in peace. Or I forgot he died for a second when I said that. And it's like I need all the next newest best thing. Best. Oh, this guy just wrote this great book that breaks open the book of Revelation, or all the numbers in the back half of Daniel or whatever. It's like all this great. It's like, forget all that. Like, you don't need all that. It's like, is it enough to wake up every day, to pray, to study your Bible, just like ordinary faithfulness? And that's so,
and I think
that's so anti when we live. That's like anti our context.
And I think the people who really get this, the ordinary faithfulness, are the people who have been serving in kids Sunday school for 30 years.
Without a doubt.
Or people who've been serving in what, they've been in the tech booth or for 30, whatever.
But, and
hey, this is why I'm serving my church. I'm going to be there every week.
Yeah. Well, specifically kids, because here's the other thing I tell students a lot about this is you're trying to base, for students a lot of times, it's like, I had this like feeling, it's like I was like super on fire when I first got saved or had this spiritual experience at camp or whatever. I'm like, you're searching for that. And instead what you need to be searching for and pressing towards is producing fruit in your life. Mm-hmm. And what people who have served in kids ministry for 30 years get to see is like all the fruit that's been produced that they've gotten to be a small part of.
Yeah, they've just been tilling the soil.
Yeah. And so I like one thing I try to tell students all the time is you cannot measure like the value of faithfulness and obedience over a week or like 2 weeks, right? It's like you got to think of yourself 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. Like, are you more faithful and obedient now than you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Right. And for most of us, the answer is yes. If we're, following Jesus. And because it's not these like big, huge things that we're changing all the time. For some people it is, but for most of us, just like these small, simple moments that are like shaping us and shaping us and shaping us. And so I just think we should kind of like,
the other thing
we gotta be okay with the simplicity and the kind of boringness, the ordinariness of living a spiritual life.
I've heard someone say this before too. When you got saved, whether you had a dramatic conversion or not, to quote John Wesley, the chains fell off. Your heart was free. It was this just dramatic. Mm-hmm. Your heart was dead and it's alive, and so like that's emotional. Whether it was really intense or not, that's an emotional feeling, big thing that you're never going to recapture because you can't have your heart dead and back alive again. And so stop trying to recapture that. That was good. It was great. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't because what made it great wasn't the feeling that accompanied it. Mm-hmm. The feelings are good. They're genuine. They're great. Mm-hmm. But now we can go deeper. And instead of like Keller talks about like the creek that's like shallow and loud,
and that is a Keller strikeout.
Is that the third one?
That's Brent's third Keller reference. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
What about that deep, wide river that you don't really hear, right? But it's just constantly moving. So it's like, how do we get deeper? And there's emotions there. Mm-hmm. There's different.
Yeah. No, I think that's like a huge conversation. And I think as the world has like sped up, and we have now started to feel the lack of fulfillment in that. And actually how it makes us feel terrible. I think people are starting to do like good work about how do we break out of relying on this and wading into the deep, because like a lot of times it's holding us back from wading deeper is being caught up in like the new and the fancy and the whatever. Talk about this. You referenced this a little bit earlier. Proximity to the things of God does not equal true faith in God. Mm-hmm. And so here we are talking about spiritual disciplines and living a spiritual life. And then on the flip side, there's kind of this reality that you can even do all that stuff and not have true faith.
Or at least be around it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and do it some, certainly. But it's like the point is these guys in Israel, they had crossed the Red Sea. They had seen the water from the rock. They had seen the pillar of fire and all these amazing things. And they're right around it. And yet we're unbelieving.
Yeah.
The whole point is that they didn't have faith. And so for Israel, right, you can have this one body of people, this nation, and there's unbelievers in it. And in the church, we want it, all the members of the church to be believers, but sometimes unbelievers sneak in. And you're around us, and you talk the talk. Mm-hmm. You serve, you help out, you're around, but your heart is far. You don't actually have faith. Mm. You just think this is kind of fun and cool, and some community for you, and this is good, and you want to be a good person, and religious people are good, and so you're in, but you're not actually in.
Yeah.
And so just because you're around doesn't actually make you in.
Yeah. I thought about like
just because you're in the sheep pen don't make you a sheep. You could be a goat.
Yeah. Well, it made me think about like specifically in America where, and other countries where like Christianity kind of just was the like majority kind of like culture. It's like, it's actually just easier to get by in life to look like a Christian.
Yeah.
You know? And so I thought about like, if I were going to go to a playoff football game, right, in Philadelphia, that was this past weekend, and someone says, hey, you can wear who did they play? You can wear a 49ers jersey or you can wear a Philly jersey. Which one are you going to wear? Well, if I'm going to the link, if I'm going to Philadelphia, I'll say, give me the Philly jersey. Like, I will wear the Cooper DeJean jersey because I don't want to get yelled at. I don't want to get cans thrown in the video of people throwing cans at 49ers fans. Like, I just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
That doesn't make me an Eagles fan. I'm far from it, right? But I can at least put on the jersey and try to fit in so I can kind of get in and out a little bit easier. And I think Christianity kind of became that and can be that for a lot of people. It's like, hey, we want to put on the jersey because we want to look like we're on the right political team or the right we're on the right side of the culture war, or
so going with the flow.
Yeah, it's like we want our kids to be on this team because it keeps them out of the most trouble. But I'm not actually a fan of this team. It just makes my life easier.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think a lot of and I don't think anyone consciously is like, I'm just going to play the part. But I think on these deep levels, we're kind of just like, hey, my life is easier. Like, I've just always come to church. I've always
good for the kids.
The Bible's good. Yeah. Church is good, right? But is it the ultimate authority? Is it, the truth? All those things. So, last thing before we get to a question, just how is Jesus the greater Moses? What about his work makes him the greater Moses? And so just compare and contrast kind of the work of Moses and of Jesus.
I think the biggest one is, but there's many, is Moses was the law bringer, which brings the Ten Commandments down, writes the first 5 books of the Bible, writes all the laws in Leviticus. He's a law bringer, which exposes our inadequacy to keep the law. Jesus is the law keeper, and delivers us from the penalty and the curse of being lawbreakers. And so he delivers us in a way Moses can't. I think the other big one is the second Exodus.
Yeah.
So Moses.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
I don't. Maybe these are tied for the top, but not that it's really a top. But so Moses delivers us, or delivered them from a physical slavery. Jesus delivers us from a spiritual slavery.
Yeah.
Moses delivers them from a physical slavery by the firstborn being killed. Jesus delivers us from a spiritual slavery by him, the firstborn, being killed. But then you have things like, Moses talks to God. It says mouth to mouth. It's the literal.
You said that. I was like, that's funny. It's like CPR.
Yeah. But Jesus speaks to us directly. God speaks to us directly. You even have things like the rock, right? Moses hits the rock with his staff for the water to come out. And Hebrews later is going to say, and the rock was Christ, because Jesus was struck with the rod of God's justice and spews forth water. Yeah. Then you got
you got 2 stories of Moses like giving water, right?
Yeah. Well, one he's supposed to speak to it, and he hits it again. He's not supposed to.
Well, then maybe there's 3 because then you also have him like throwing the log in.
Yeah, he puts the log in.
Yeah. And so, but yeah, he's the sustainer, right? He's like bringing them food and
so
and
Jesus
water.
is the water of life. He's the bread of life. Where Moses brings the manna.
Yep.
So you get all of these things over and over again, and they're all pointing to the fulfillment in Jesus.
Yeah. Anything else about Moses and the greater Moses and drifting and persevering?
I don't think so.
All right.
I can think about it.
Well, let's answer a question, shall we?
All right.
You can always ask a question on the church app or through the link in the episode description. But someone wrote in and they asked this: are religion and Jesus different? If we say that we're religious, are we saying that we're a Christian following Jesus? And so I think you mentioned this last week.
Yeah.
About trusting in religion not being enough.
Yeah, and this is I think colloquial term. I think is probably the right category. I think it depends on what you mean by religious, right? Certainly Christianity is a religion.
Religion, right. So saying you're religious doesn't mean you're a Christian, right?
Yeah. But the way that has become popular to talk about this, and probably should have defined this a little more, but to say one is religious, every other religion in the world says, here are the things you got to do to get God to be happy with you. And so religion is by and far is seen as things to do, right? I go to these services, I perform these ritual rites, I do these things, and that makes God happy with me. And what we're saying in Christianity is that there's nothing you can do. No amount of services you go to or rites you do or sacrifices you make or whatever, it's going to make God happy with you. The gospel is not religious in that sense. It is God comes to us. And so God wants a relationship with us, not just a religious experience. And so what I mean in that is if you've tried religion, meaning you've tried to do all of the things and all of the steps to make God happy with you, and you found that wanting, good, because it's not going to work, you've got to come to Jesus. That's not just a religious experience, but it's a personal experience. Yeah, that's what I mean by that.
It's the number one critique Jesus has against the Pharisees.
Yeah,
he's saying you're not experiencing God right because you're so focused on religion. You're so focused on the list of do's and don'ts. You tithe your cumin and dill and whatever, and yet you don't love your neighbor, right? And you like on those things, and so.
You got all these actions, but your heart's not there.
Yeah.
I care about your heart.
Yeah. And so I think we talk about religion a lot as a sort of catch-all term for just doing the things.
Works-based righteousness.
Yeah. Without
a transformed heart.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
You're pretty on the outside, dead on the inside.
Yeah.
Jesus wants us to be alive on the inside, which then changes the outside.
Yeah. Very cool.
So it's not wrong to say religious.
Yeah. But you can't trust in religious practice to save you. Only a person can save you, not a system. Yeah. I think that's super helpful. Any final words for this 2-for-1 special?
2-for. Nope.
Is that a thing in at Skyline? Can you get like a 2? Can you get like a 3-way?
I've been to Skyline one time and I ain't going back. Sorry, Cincinnati.
Me neither. I'll go to Gold Star
because they got a burger.
Get a burger. All right. Well, thanks for joining us for the recap. We hope this conversation has encouraged you to keep striving to make Jesus essential in every aspect of your life. If you aren't part of our church family, we'd love to meet you on a Sunday morning. We gather for worship at 10:30 a.m. For more information, you can always go to myfellowship.church. Thanks for listening. Be blessed.